welcome back to That's Entertainment, the weekly entertainment show where we look at all the interesting news from the last couple of weeks. Sorry, we've been off, we've had Corona in the team, we've had people down with the vaccine too, so it's just been absolute chaos this end trying to get things arranged. But anyway, getting back into it, this week we're taking a look at the state of the cinema industry. It's now almost 2 years since exhibitors around the globe were forced to close down, following the start of the global pandemic. While most are now open once again, they're operating in a very different world. Studio blockbusters have been the bread and butter of mainstream cinemas for years, and in 2019, Disney's Avengers Endgame took approximately $2.7 billion around the world, helping the global box office to set an astonishing new record of $42.5 billion that year. We've seen that Hollywood studios postpone countless blockbuster titles originally planned for 2019 and beyond, and cinemas are still living with the consequences. For example, Kenneth Branagh's take on Agatha Christie's Death on the Nile finally opened earlier this month, over 2 years on since its original December 2019 release date. Things have improved for cinemas in recent months, while Marvel's and Sony's Spider-Man No Way Home has become the first blockbuster to generate the kinds of numbers that we haven't seen since pre-COVID. And the film has taken roughly $1.7 billion globally and is still on general release. The studio's upcoming release schedules are still looking pretty anemic compared to previous years. Warner Brothers are releasing Batman in early March and Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore in April, while Universal has releases scheduled throughout February, March, and April. But both Paramount and Sony are not opening any significant titles until early April, with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Morbius. While Disney have nothing on the calendar until late May, with Marvel movie Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And it's not just a lack of major studio titles that's having an impact on exhibitors' ability to find movies to play in their cinemas. Even pre-COVID, many mid-budget or niche movies often fail to attract cinema goers, with many producers consequently turning to streaming platforms as an alternative way to release their films. A recent report on Celluloid Junkie's website highlighted the problem. If acquisitions activity at the 2022 Sundance Film Festival provides any insight into the current market for specialty and mid-tier movies, then the near future of cinema operators of all sizes is decidedly mixed. Streaming services have a need to deliver an unending supply of new and fresh content to attract subscribers, which ultimately brings them to Sundance to hoover up movies that might otherwise first play in cinemas. The ever-growing popularity of streaming video means that cinemas are facing more competition from the small screen than ever before. Cinema owners around the globe will have been disappointed by Disney's decision to cancel the planned March theatrical release of Pixar's Turning Red, and instead debut the film on Disney Plus streaming video platform. As Deadline pointed out in their coverage of the decision, it's the third Pixar movie to skip theaters and go straight to Disney Plus after Soul and Luca. Even when studios release films day and date, making a title available to watch at home the same day it debuts on the big screen, cinemas suffer. Warner Brothers' decision to release all of its 2021 releases simultaneously on HBO Max and its US cinemas led to the studio having to make multiple deals with filmmakers and talent offering financial compensation for the consequential loss of theatrical revenues. And last week, Village Roadshow issued a lawsuit against Warner Brothers. According to Deadline, Village Roadshow contends that Warner Media hobbled the film's commercial prospects by favoring streaming. By not attaching any charge for a slate of films with budgets upwards of $200 million, Warner Media and Warner Brothers effectively enticed movie-going audiences away from theaters. Film fans without subscriptions to such streaming services as Netflix and HBO Max have also found their TVs and laptops offering appealing alternatives to a trip to the local multiplex. Premium video on demand was first used by Universal as an alternative to a theatrical use with their film Trolls World Tour. This saw the studio take the vast majority of the reported $100 million it earned in the US alone. The home premiere market has evolved significantly over the last 2 years, and according to Deadline, the PVOD revenue in the US reached almost $525 million last year. Greatly reduced theatrical windows mean film fans now have to wait just weeks after a film's cinematic release in order to be able to watch it at home. And this is becoming the norm globally. For example, in the UK, which previously had lengthier windows than the US, Matrix Resurrections became available as a home premiere title on January 31st, just weeks after it opened in cinemas on December 22nd. Knowing a film will soon be able to watch at home via PVOD or streaming platforms isn't the only problem facing cinemas. Staggered international VOD release dates are also responsible for another growing problem: piracy. As Puck's Matthew Belloni noted, it's become clear to the studio and theatre executives what every comic book guy already knew. Putting a pristine copy of a first-run film online, especially a heavily marketed tentpole like Matrix, dramatically increases the digital theft of that movie worldwide. As the CEO of the Mexican theatre chain Cinépolis explained last summer, pirates are making a lot of money with day-and-date releases. Piracy analyst Muso also pointed out in 2021 in their review, Muso tracked over 20 billion visits to film piracy websites over the course of 2021, with a 31% increase when comparing Q1 to Q4 globally, and a 47% increase specifically in the United States, largely driven by blockbuster film titles that were released heading into Q4. In conclusion, even though cinema goers are beginning to return, exhibitors, particularly those outside the US, are facing another tough year. Major releases are still being pushed back. For example, the eagerly awaited Tom Cruise picks Mission Impossible 7 and 8 aren't scheduled for release until at least 2023 and 2024. Studios and major streaming platforms are focused on producing content for the small screen, not the cinema screen. According to TV Rev website, Wells Fargo projects that the 9 biggest media and entertainment companies will spend more than $140 billion on content, up 10% from 2021. Piracy is definitely not going away, as we've seen from the Muso data, and I'm sure it's only getting worse. The major studios are focusing on generating revenue from their own streaming platforms, and therefore those platforms are receiving a share of the budget that would be allocated towards the film if it was releasing theatrically. So, as we said right back in the beginning days of this pandemic, content is splitting off into various platforms. This gatekeeping is driving piracy along with day-and-date releases. And the studios are beginning to focus their marketing dollars on driving audiences into their streaming platforms and also to theatrical. It's going to be a share of this big pie that theatres are getting, but it's going to be significantly down from the money that they were used to seeing being thrown at their releases. Exhibitors are having to rely on their own marketing activities more than ever now, and that's something that Groovy can definitely help with. In the recent months, we've been working with a range of cinema chains in various territories around the world, and the knowledge we are accruing means that we are generating more and more online ticket sales for those clients. One of the most recent findings revealed the huge impact that Instagram has on final ticket sales compared to other social platforms. And in that specific example, which will be released as a blog post shortly, what we saw was that despite clicks and engagement being better on Facebook, the real buyers were on Instagram. And in fact, although Instagram appeared to be the more expensive campaign on face value, if we were just measuring it from purely an impressions basis, it was actually the main driver for ticket sales for the online campaign when we compare the two platforms. For these campaigns, we rely heavily on our own bespoke audience data platform, which we call TAP, or the Audience Project. We've also looked to exploit the single best data source every cinema has, knowledge of its own audience's behavior, and tracking and analyzing customer purchases and behavior enables us to successfully model lookalike audience groups, which we can then identify and use to target further ticket buyers. We are well aware of how important every penny a cinema spends on online marketing is today, and this needs to be fully accountable, and we work as hard as we can to make sure that happens. This is why our executive partners have access to a live dashboard that updates them in real time in terms of what's going on with their campaigns. And from here, we can see exactly how well individual ads for individual cinemas perform, not only in terms of impressions and ad views, but crucially in exactly how much revenue has been generated by each ad in terms of actual sales. If you'd like to know more about what Groovy can do to generate your online presence, particularly in the light of the changes that are coming with Google's cookieless mandate, we can help. And we can help even the smallest art house theatre through to the largest multiplex chain. So please get in touch directly today.